A day passed, and already the time with his new CEO was as different as the human was. The human had taken him home, showed him where he'd sleep, a room with a bed, showed him where to get food and how to access his VAR headset, then told him to make himself at home. Then the human left. With nothing to do, the pet cleaned the kitchen, cleaned all the surfaces, then ate, then cleaned extra hard where he had eaten, then went to the bedroom to sit in the dark on the armchair there until he fell asleep. He got up early the next day because it was habit. He started picking things up for much the same reason. Eventually, when he was making breakfast, the human woke up as well. "You don't have to do chores," the human said, taking the omelet he had made. "As glad as I am to see that kitchen put to use. Come, grab a plate, sit down, please," he added on the end. So the pet ate with the human, self-conscious of how he must have looked, messily chewing with his beak. He ate slowly, making sure to keep his beak over his plate. As he ate, the human took the thing out and put it on the table. "I'd like to give you more time to settle in, but let's have a chat. This thing is called a damper, and it allows us comms to move around and talk without being seen or heard. I know you know that, and I know you can see the fields around it, but I need to start somewhere." The pet chewed. The man only picked at his omelet, wasn't even putting any in his mouth. He felt self-conscious about that now, too. Was it not to his liking? Then again, most humans only pecked at their food. But the thing with dampers is, they don't actually hide you. The scanners, they can still see the area where you should be. And they can see that something is happening there, to the fields. Actually, that makes you stand out like a sore thumb. If someone else already knows where to look. Hey, this is good. The human lifted the omelet and scarfed it down in one bite. "Now," the human said, licking his fingers, "you've done something to this damper, which means that no one will know to look. If they know where to look, they'll find it right away, if it's on. But first they have to know to look. You know what I'm saying?" The pet nodded. Was there anything else he could do? Good. Then, see, the reason that people on this base know where to look, and let's be clear, it's machines that are doing the looking, is because of the things that you and I both have inside our heads. The damper has one of those things too, and, once it's on, it broadcasts a signal that it's being used. That is, so long as it's being used within the city. So they not only know to look, but where to look. In other words, they don't want us using these things, and there's swift and painful correction if we do. But you, the human continued, you somehow managed to stop that signal. That means, as long as I'm not incredibly unlucky, I can use this thing to get around, go places where I could never go before, as well as say and do things I'd normally not say and do. That also means I have been able to gather more such dampers without anyone knowing. Not only that, but amplifiers too. The thing is, however, I can't use them, can't even turn them on, because I don't know how to do what you did. Will you show me? The pet nodded. Then he croaked. Yes. There was no bite. Ah, the human smiled. I see that my modification worked. You see, I'm not entirely useless. Being a brain doctor means I can code some things related to brains. If I'm not mistaken, it's that thing in your head that also stops you from talking, because they don't want you doing that. I've modified the damper, so you can talk so long as you have it near you. You'll notice you don't have to privilege commands either, though I suggest you do so anyway, when others are around. The human tossed the damper at the pet, who caught it with his beak. "What your name?" the pet asked, as only a bird can, still with the damper in his beak. "Alex. And what's yours?" "The kids call me Chirpy." "And do you like being called Chirpy?" Chirpy shrugged. "I'm a bird. Birds chirp." "All right, Chirpy. Welcome to my humble quarters. Make yourself at home." Hello and moin, this is Lawrence Unders, the person whose beautiful voice you've been listening to. I hope you're enjoying these readings of my eco-friendly synthtopian sci-fi novel, A Fish Out of Water. As the prologue comes to a close, I want to take a little time to say a few things. First off, I'm doing these readings in order to gain a readership. I've noticed that it's quite hard to get people to read longish things, especially on social media, where there are a lot of cat videos for me to compete with. I don't blame anyone. I don't read enough myself. I much prefer podcasts and audiobooks. So, since I used to do a podcast, and since I'm a writer, it seems only natural for me to do these audiobooks, and it's also really fun and useful for me too. Doing these readings, I know there are a lot of changes I can make to simplify my prose and explain things a little better. If you've liked what you've heard so far, then I ask you to help me out. The biggest help is to like and share my work, otherwise I don't get any exposure at all. It should go without saying, social media companies want me to pay for advertisements. They actually suppress what is called organic advertising, i.e. people like me sharing their work through friends and friends of friends. That means spending much more time on social media than I am actually writing. The only way to get around that is to grow an audience big enough that my posts get picked up. So, if you haven't already, please share these audiobook recordings. You can also go to one of my social media accounts and follow me. In Instagram and Tumblr, I am Lawrence Unders. That's LAWRENCEANDERS. In Twitter, I am Lawrence P. Unders, and in Facebook, I am Lawrence.P.Unders. You can also go to my website, decent.rabble.org, and share from there. That's decent.rabbl.org. There you can also read the prologue and, as of this recording, the first act, consisting of 8 chapters. If you didn't know, these recordings are available on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and acast.com. Again, just look for Lawrence Unders. Another thing you can do is subscribe to my Patreon page at patreon.com/LawrenceUnders. There I have monthly tiers of between $1 and $7, and subscribers will get access to these recordings without interruptions like this one. You'll also get first access to new chapters and rewritings of old chapters as they come. And I'll be writing acknowledgments to subscribers on my website, decent.rabble.org. If you don't want a monthly subscription, but you still want to support me financially, then you can go to my website and find a link to my PayPal account. Any kind of donation will help me achieve my dream of becoming an independent writer. The second thing I have to say is this. While I dream of being an independent writer, I make a living through proofreading, and I'm also a Cambridge CELTA-trained English teacher based in Hamburg, Germany. So if you want me to look over an article, or dissertation, or novel, or if you want to improve your English, then you can go to my other website, finaldraft.cc. That's finaldraft.cc, where you would not only be helping me, but a colleague of mine with whom I've been doing proofreading work since 2013. If you don't need our language services, then maybe you know someone who does, and you can still support us by liking and sharing our Facebook page. Its username is co.finaldraft. The last thing I want to say is this. A Fish Out of Water and the ambitious series A Garden of Earthly Delights is a synthtopian sci-fi. That means it's both dystopian and utopian. The thing is, I think there are already too many fictional dystopian worlds out there, which are damning critiques of society as we know it today, but which rarely provide any alternatives, at least not in detail. A Garden of Earthly Delights will be different. In A Fish Out of Water, and more so in later books, I'll be writing about those alternative stories of how a dystopia and utopia develop in conflict with each other over the next 300 years. But, in the end, whatever future we have, it's not going to be just one person's vision. So I want A Garden of Earthly Delights to be collaborative. As I work on my main story, for instance, maybe other people want to flesh out the history of the next 300 years, when the story takes place. There are also a lot of really cool characters and creatures, and I'd love it if an artist would bring them to life. Or maybe you already draw fantasy and sci-fi things, and you would like me to write a story behind them. Plus, I really like synthwave, and I think A Garden of Earthly Delights could inspire some cool songs or maybe even a concept album. Finally, for reals this time, I know these recordings are the best, especially at the beginning of Scene 4. I'm recording on my phone, and I'm reluctant to spend too much time on them, since they take away time from my writing. So what I will do is this. I will publish just 2 scenes a week, so I can improve the recordings and hopefully be easier on your ears. That's all. Don't forget to follow and subscribe and share. Thank you for your patience. I hope you're enjoying my book. Take care. A week passed, then a month, then a year. Chirpy helped Alex modify the dampers and the amplifiers, which would allow Alex to disappear from the field scanners while also appearing to still be somewhere else. Beyond that, Chirpy didn't know what Alex did with the dampers and amplifiers. He knew Alex would never tell him, so he never asked. He was just happy to help. In that time, Chirpy acted like Alex's pet when they were out of the home, but was treated as a friend when they weren't. Alex often had important things to do, like training and reading and writing up manuals. He was working on a new edition of his old academy manual, for instance, which Chirpy read. They would go to meetings together, watch hollows together, and Alex often took Chirpy to the park so he could see the animals. One time, Alex and Chirpy were on leave. The first time Chirpy had been off the base, if you didn't count the stakeholders' mansion. It was sick leave, not a vacation. But the hotel they stayed at was something new. And when Chirpy wasn't spending time at Alex's bed, he was able to explore. He wasn't worried, because Alex was a brain doctor, and he said that his brain just needed some rest. Another time, they went to the parade, the word for the birthday celebration of his old CO. Chirpy didn't like to be there, but Alex had to be there, so Chirpy was glad to be at his side, and at least he didn't have to wear a suit and stand on the stage. The stakeholder, he saw, was getting old, and his speech wasn't so coherent. Had his speeches always been like that? After the parade, he went to the banquet with Alex. After they ate, Alex had to go drink with the other non-stakeholder officers, so Chirpy was left with the children again. That's where he met his sister. They didn't get to see each other for long, and there was no opportunity to talk in the way that pets do. But she did pass him a message, a box that opened and flashed pretty colors, which told him that their parents had passed away, but that their family had grown. She'd been carrying it with her all these years to the parades, just in case she ran into him. So he gave her a message as well. Then, one day, shortly thereafter, Alex came to Chirpy. He didn't see him himself. "What wrong?" Chirpy asked, and the bite hurt him. "Chirpy, I know you gave your damper away. I can tell that you're not able to speak without tremendous effort. Humans aren't completely senseless." Chirpy was petrified, and tears ran down his feathers. "I'm not angry at you. I just need you to know you can't do something like that again. You gave it to another pet, right? Was it the bird I saw you sitting with after the banquet? Hold on, don't talk. I've got another damper." Alex placed the damper on the table in front of them. "Thank you. She my sister." "I see. I never had a sibling, so I can't be angry at you about the bond you must have shared. But I must stress, please, don't give these things away. They'll compost us both, if they find out." With that, Alex got up to pour himself a cup of karaoke, then sat down and rubbed his eyes. "There's something else that is wrong." Alex nodded, matter-of-factly. "You heard of the pirate attack a while ago? Well, there are comms from our base being held ransom there, and civils from our city, too. Probably they've been tortured, And they're asking me, of all people, to command the ship to float them out of there. Why you? Alex shrugged, sullenly. I think the stakeholder officers have always held a grudge against me. They don't like who I am, who my family was, or the rank I've reached. It's their way of showing that they can push me around. He made to sip his carry-offee, put the cup to his mouth, then put it down again without drinking. But the reason they're giving is that the other brain doctors are all on assignment or on leave. I don't believe a word of it. But I checked the logs, and at least they say I am the only brain doctor left on the base. I'm only commanding the ship because I have such a high rank. When you go? In a week. Until then, I have to think up how to treat everyone. Look up how the pirates are torturing people these days. Honestly, I haven't done this sort of thing for a long time, and I'm pretty anxious about it. I've never commanded my own ship. I command a desk, not a ship. Alex sat up, then breathed in, then out, closing his eyes and concentrating on his breath, like so many times Chirpy had seen before. Then he opened his eyes. In any case, Chirpy, would you like to go with me? Chirpy jumped, flapping his wings and whistling in glee. He'd never been on a ship before, never crossed the sea, never seen a pirate. Then he remembered himself, remembered that Alex was not happy to be going. Yet he was smiling. That means you're coming, right? You don't have to ask.